Going live. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to Center at Home. This is Matt Asner and
Navah Paskowitz Asner.
And we are here. It's a week two.
Yeah.
Week two of
seems like
quarantine.
Month two.
Week
though,
two
right?
of quarantine.
Week two.
It's third week, right? I don't know. I've lost track of time. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what hour it is. But here we are. And we're coming to you from our home in
Happy
Tarzana.
World Autism Awareness and Acceptance
green
Day.
Screen setup. Yes, Happy Autism Awareness Day. It's a bizarre one. It's the first one of its kind, really. And so we've got an incredible show for you today. We have on the show today, we have John Elder Robison, who is an amazing writer and
speaker.
And I had to give Navah oxygen, actually.
Yeah, I'm
after
a
she
fangirl.
saw him at the Autism Society conference.
It was the first time I'd seen John speak, and I was blown away. And something about his way of speaking reminded me a lot of my dad, and how my dad would pack the college. Remember when he was doing his inspirational speaking and nutritional classes. And I was just really amazed at how he spoke and how he connected with his audience. And being somebody who has really struggled in my past with speaking in public, I was very impressed by John. I'm excited to have him on.
And we also have Alex Plank on. Alex is an old friend and
some leader in the autism community, because we've had so many shows with Alex.
He's our unofficial son.
Yes,
our seventh child, so to speak. And we're really going to talk today about anxiety, because it's an issue everyone has right now. It's something that we are all dealing with and living with and struggling with. I know certainly in our house we have anxiety over the situation. What is life going to look like in a week or two or three or four? How long is this going to take? Am I going to get it? Is one of the children going to get it? Is Navah going to get it?
Is Maddie going to get it?
Am I going to get it? No, and it's something that really kind of people, you think about, and you can't help but think about it. And we don't really have anything to gauge this on in terms of what we've been through. I guess the closest thing for us in our generation would be 9/11, but
9/11 was short-lived, and this seems to be going on and on and on.
And you made the reference to World War II, and I think that we certainly weren't around then, but that's certainly I would assume would be something like this. And then 1918, which is when the Spanish influenza happened. That certainly is the closest thing to what we're going through now. But the news is serious, and we in our house, we've kind of turned the news off for a while, because it's
I forced you to do that.
You forced me to do that. And it's a good thing. When the kids are around, we turn the news off because it's just too much. When they're not there, I kind of have it on in the background all the time. But it's
but you have to gauge for anybody, even for ourselves, the negativity. You're just being every day the onslaught of bad news, and it builds up to a chronic level where people who have panic attacks, as I've had in my life, you go into like a constant feeling of just unease and nervousness and anxiety, and a lot of our families aren't sleeping well at night, and insomnia is through the roof, because that's your time when you really spin and you really start thinking about everything that's happening and how out of control we feel.
But I have a problem not knowing what's going on. I have a problem not watching the news, because then I have anxiety not knowing what's happening. If there's a developing news story, I want to know what it is, because if I don't know what it is, I feel like I'm going to miss something, and then I'm not going to be informed.
But it's feeding your fear every time.
Well, yeah, it is feeding my fear, but I also feel that not knowing, I can't stand.
So you check in in the morning. You check in the morning, and you check in at night, and that's it.
You should know this. I hate not knowing. I don't like it. I don't like being in the dark about anything.
Okay.
So, that's what it is.
Okay.
So anyway, this is our new show called Center at Home. This is our episode number 2. And we're going to come to you every week with tales of quarantine in our home and
Corona madness, Corona kitchen, and
we've had quite a week. We started working with the kids in school, and that's anxiety producing in its own, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I don't even know what to think about that.
I think what we were talking about earlier is that we have to do what we can do every day to get through each day and still be alive and healthy and sane. And if that means doing a portion of the assigned work and not completing all of it, that's okay.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that we aren't professional teachers. We haven't been taught to teach kids who need extra support. And we're going to do the best we can do. I mean, we have 3 kids in 3 different schools with 3 different online loads. And,
how do you do that?
It's impossible. It's not impossible, but it's so difficult that it just adds to the stress level even more. And so I think we have to all, as a community and as parents, give ourselves a little bit of a break. And do the best that you can do. That's all we can do.
And it's okay. It's okay if you miss an assignment here and there. It's okay if you miss a day.
We're going to get in trouble encouraging people to not.
No, but I think it is. It's okay if that's too much pressure. That's a lot of pressure. I mean, this is a lot of pressure anyway. I mean, the parents at home or individuals at home, there's a lot going on. They still have their, they still have to do their jobs as much as possible at home. So it's like doubling up on work, basically. And so, finding a balance, I think, is a very important thing. Yeah, finding a balance is a very important thing. It's my dad is calling me.
I see that.
So we're gonna bring our guests in now. Our first guest, because our second guest is going to be a gentleman named Gray Bilodeau, who is actually on the front lines at a clinic in Washington. He's seeing coronavirus patients every day. So he's really on the front line in terms of testing and what he's seeing at clinics. And we're going to talk to him about what's going on, in the
trenches. What
is going on he's up in Washington State. So we're going to talk to him after our first guest, and I'm going to bring them in now. And this is the first time I've done this, so forgive me if I do this wrong, but, let's see what we do here. Oh, there we go.
Yay.
We have Elder Robison and Alex Plank are joining us.
Can you hear me?
We can hear both of you. John?
Hello. Yeah,
how are
you? I'm all right.
I also switched to earbuds for a cleaner look.
Okay, that's good. Yes, you look a lot sleeker. Alex. So, John, let me start with you because I've actually been reading your posts over the last week or so. And they're very moving. How are you doing through all this? How is it? You're both people who make your living through speaking at conferences and for other people. Of course, that's something that's not happening right now. So, talk to me about how that's going, what's going on in terms of your life and how you're dealing with your anxiety.
Well, first of all, I think what you expressed is a popular misconception that I am supported by speaking about autism.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I am supported by operating a large garage complex in Springfield, Massachusetts. Our garages do state emission and safety inspections. We do general repair of regular cars. We're Bosch service for high-end European cars. We have another business that restores high-end cars. We're best known for Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Land Rover, and Mercedes. And we also are home to the backup emergency ambulance center for our city.
Wow.
So we serve thousands and thousands of people in the city and the surrounding community every year. And it is the operation of that garage, or that garage complex, which makes it possible for me to have the freedom to go out and speak about autism and neurodiversity. I would not be doing this if I did not have that foundation. And in some ways, parts of that are threatened. Certainly, we have lost most of the local service business for the time being, but ultimately, cars don't stop breaking just because the other circumstances change. And I expect that will come back. Obviously, our ambulances are needed more than ever.
Yeah.
Our project work, our big restorations, all that work is proceeding, but our ability to do the work is limited because we have orders to shut down and not have unessential travel, not have non-essential workers in the complex. So we're running with a reduced staff, and of course the invisible threat of coronavirus is very much in our minds, especially since our ambulances transport coronavirus patients every day. Because I'm in my 60s, folks think that I'm at risk and I should be home. And I have been confined actually to my house, 20 some miles away, operating work through my computer link. And that's, it's a very stressful thing to be. And it is also very stressful for me to not be with all of my people. I mean, I feel that I should be there among them, taking the same risks that they take. And of course, they don't want that. My wife in particular really doesn't want it. And some of the others, my son doesn't want it, but that's very stressful. And I guess I just, I do the best I can, but I have to make the first priority our automotive complex. And speaking about autism, neurodiversity and such is a secondary to that. I couldn't speak to you now until the workday finished because I have to take calls for the car complex all day.
Right. And John, you're healthy. Everything's good so far. So far, so good.
Well, being home for the last month, I haven't eaten any sweets. I haven't eaten any restaurant food. I decided that since this is a respiratory virus, and there's no way to know which of us will be seriously or mildly affected, the best defensive strategy I could follow would be to build up my cardio system and build up my lung capacity. So I've gone from walking a mile or two on flat ground to walking 6 miles up and down hills every day, and I've lost 15 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And so in that sense, I'm not as fit as I was when I was 50, but I'm a lot fitter than I was a year ago.
That's wonderful.
John, I'm going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
I'm actually, eating sweets and not working out.
Well, you shouldn't,
No.
because there is no other certainly protective thing that we can do. Sure, I mean, obviously not being close to other people and such, but for our own bodies, being fitter and having greater lung and heart capacity is the only sure protective thing.
Raising your immune system.
Very true.
Lowering the alcohol.
I don't drink,
especially sugar. I mean, they show studies where sugar feeds bacteria in the body.
Well, your dad has been a very good.
I've been taking walks at night
with Max.
with Max.
So,
And
Alex, did you get your
last night or 2 nights ago, we found a $20 bill on the ground, and I wondered how many people walked past it and didn't pick it up because they were worried it was
pretty?
infected.
No.
Did you get your beautiful car with John from John?
No, I bought it from a place out here. I had a different car that I had.
I remember I drove in your Jaguar.
Oh, no, I didn't get that one either. I bought that one.
He's had a succession of beautiful cars over the years.
The current one is a Range Rover.
I love that car.
Yeah.
So John, I mean, you basically answered my question about anxiety because you're working out and you're eating better food and you're dealing with your anxiety that way. You certainly have written in your posts on social media some really moving posts about how you feel about this situation, and I think you really put it in perspective for a lot of people. You certainly did for me. Can you talk a little bit about what we're going through and maybe give people who are going through a similar kind of anxiety that we're all going through, maybe give them some advice on how to deal with it from your perspective?
I think that we have to really be focused on the one day at a time idea, that we cannot know the future for any of us, but I think we can say with reasonable confidence that the vast majority of our population is going to survive this relatively unscathed. And the industrial capacity of our country, the creative capacity of our country, all those things that make us great are not threatened in a fundamental way by this. Those things will all be present when this passes. I think that we can look at lessons of infectious disease from the past, and we can trust in the power and capability of our public health agencies to solve this problem. And whether it is a year from now, or it is 2 years, or it's 3 years from now, I'm absolutely confident that we will have effective vaccine and treatment for this, because we have done that with other similar viruses. We have faced similar challenges and we have surmounted them. So I believe all that will happen. I believe our country will return to its place in the world, and it will be able to do the things it did. And I think the vast majority of us, you, me, Alex, all of us, will still be here. I mean, obviously, some of us will not be here. We cannot know that. Any of us could die tomorrow for any reason. And I think we have to really keep that perspective in mind.
Do you have a comment on that?
Me, Alex? Can you hear me? Oh, yes.
You,
Alex.
Yes, well, there's a delay. Well, I will say that at least in terms of, I think it's important to try to stay positive. It's very hard to do. It's hard to focus on the things sometimes that you need to do, especially if they're seem sort of less, what's the word, relevant, considering, you know, it would be nice to have people calling and having to answer the phones like John is, because that, you know, that would be a, you know, distraction that you have to answer. If the phone rings, you can answer it. It's not like writing something or working on other projects where you can put it off and think of and check Twitter and see the latest celebrity that caught the disease and, you know, see the latest death tolls. So, you know, it's hard for me because, you know, I'm here at home and, you know, I don't have a car business. So, yeah, no, I'm stressed about that as well. The financial insecurity from everything and just the uncertainty. I think it's the worst part, not knowing what's going to happen and not having like a clear plan ahead. So I think what I'm going to be trying to do though, is I'm going to be offering mentorships to people, you know, a business doing that to other autistic people that want to do like Skype calls, and I can help them that way. So I think that would be a good way in the interim to, you know, not only give back, but also be able to support myself when I can't be doing conferences and, you know, when ad revenues have been down. So, you know, I think it's a lot of people are scared, and I feel fortunate. I've got a roof over my head, and I've got Max here, and I've got I've been going outside and sitting on the patio and listening to the birds and the squirrels and other sounds from nature, and as well as also a lot of ambulances.
What Alex, I think, was saying too is it's important to distract yourself, and
Yeah.
And Alex, you don't need to wait for people to call you. You call them. I mean, every day I'm getting teens and adults who you and I both know who are really struggling with feeling alone and feeling, we don't have our support groups where people can sit around and talk to each other, but we do have online support.
Oh yeah, well, I've been talking to friends and stuff and staying in touch with everyone and supporting my friends.
I think that's vital right now, is that we don't feel, when you're in a situation like you're in comparison to John and Matt and I, you don't have, if you don't have somebody with you, you have to bring in your community into your home, into your apartment, and really feel like you have the love and support of people, because you do. I know 100 people who love you and want to speak to you on a daily basis. And you inspire a lot of kids. I know you were going to remember when we were talking about Wolfie, my middle guy who has Asperger's and is very proud of that title. And he wanted, he admires you greatly. And
yeah.
And know that you're very inspirational to a lot of kids that I take care of in my support groups and I work with.
Well, thank you. And, I am trying to stay in touch. I've been calling people up. I called John and Mary Pat, his wife, to talk to them. I took my parents, I took my sister, I took my friends. We do video chats. I went to a birthday party that was on Zoom.
That's cool.
I just can't imagine, having to tell your kids, well, when they turn 21 and they ask, well, what was your 21st birthday party like? And you're like, oh, there was a meeting ID number.
Well, it's funny because it's
we
not.
Played Scrabble online.
We know a lot of parents right now whose kids are seniors in high school, and
yeah,
I can't imagine. I mean, we all were seniors in high school once, and I can't imagine going through a senior year and not having that kind of social part of it. I mean, it's.
Well, I didn't really have very many friends in high school, so I could imagine.
No, but still, you went to high school and you were a senior and you had that senior experience, whether you were social or not. There was a senior experience that you had. I'm sure you had it as well, John. And
did you go to your senior year?
I didn't actually attend a senior year in high school, but I get the general idea of it.
You and Navah.
My dad self-taught us.
But I think it's hard. It's very difficult for people to not have that mythical last year of high school to hang their hats on. So it's very difficult. We at the center we're a physical place where people can come and take enrichment classes and have counseling. So we closed our doors because of this. And we've had to kind of reinvent ourselves during this. So now we're doing online classes, we're doing videos, we're doing telehealth sessions, and it's
and support groups
and support groups,
online support groups.
So we've Zoom has become our best friend too, and it's you got to adapt. You got to adapt.
I think the most important thing, though, that John said is that if you look beyond sometimes hour to hour, if you look beyond the day, you get overwhelmed. And I think, for somebody like myself who has anxiety, it's very important to just take it day by day, minute by minute sometimes, and really understand that, if we follow the path of the other countries, we are going to get through this. Mm-hmm. We're in the thick of it. This is the hard part, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we have to really keep telling ourselves that, and that's all we can do is just keep telling ourselves that, there is a higher power that watches out for us, and we're going to be okay on the other side. It's just, we're in the thick of it.
Right.
And also we have to remember that this particular crisis is one where all of us really are in it together. This is not like an economic crisis where we have a bunch of, rich investors and victimized people. It's not a war where one side is attacking another and killing people. It's not a natural disaster where people have been burned to death or whatever, or flooded and drowned. So it's an unprecedented situation, but it's a thing that we are all going through. So you can be confident when you talk to anybody that they too have feelings of anxiety and worry. And so this is a sort of a unique time, because in every previous moment in our lives, there was a high likelihood that you felt anxious and I didn't or whatever, but now the whole world feels this anxiety.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That's actually so well put.
And I also think that for people who are worrying about, financial stuff, like, one of the things is that, at least for me, I feel better that, it's like, it's not like if there's, if things get worse for people that everyone's going to be like, oh, well, it's your fault, because everyone's experienced the same financial issues. So, you see people getting, discounts on rent and all these things because of that. And even getting, a stimulus check is I think, really great. So that's going to be helpful.
One concern that I have is that I hope that our elected officials will have the wisdom to realize that it will be less painful for our country to keep the vast majority of our workforce employed and to keep the many, many small businesses that are the backbone of our country viable so that they can return. It troubles me that we are the only, real first world Western country that is facing massive unemployment. Other countries, whether it's just France, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, Denmark, in all those countries, the government has assumed the burden of supporting the populace because there's no party at fault to look to for this. Mm-hmm. And if we do not do that, and we have to rebuild new restaurants in place of the thousands that failed, new clothing stores, new infrastructure, that's going to be much, much harder for us to recover from. I, as a special federal employee, I don't really ever advance political positions or tell people how to vote, and I'm not doing so now. But I do hope that we can have the collective wisdom in our country to steer a course that leads to the survival of the small business foundation that we're going to need to recover.
Hear, hear.
I agree with you 100%. I think this is unprecedented, and it calls for unprecedented thinking, and certainly doesn't call for politics. It calls for something that transcends politics, and so I agree with you 100%, John.
Well, my role in government has always really transcended politics because I've been appointed by successive secretaries of Health and Human Services to represent the autism community before our government. And, and the people I've represented didn't choose me. I was appointed, not elected. And I've always been sensitive that I have a duty to represent everyone, whether they agree with me or not, and whatever their political views. It's not for me to say what they should think or feel, but just to support autistic people before the government.
I do think we need to, really push for getting the supports that we need, because I do feel like there's an element of people feeling like, that this is something that, that they're sort of being left behind, that no one's coming to help them. And Especially with the shortages in medical supplies and all these things where, the government you would think would be able to step in more. I think we do want to try to use this as a lesson for the future, so that we can be better prepared, and also to have, I think one of the things that I kept hearing, and especially when they started giving people the ability to work from home, all these people who had been trying to get those accommodations, who had disabilities, anything ranging from autism to even like things like cerebral palsy, and even just using a wheelchair and things where it's hard to get around, or it makes it really tough to get into work, and they'd always been denied, and then the minute it affects people who aren't disabled too, they're like, okay, work from home. And then the same is said, it's like people are complaining that, $1,200 is not enough. And yet, disability gives you like actually significantly less than that to live on each month,
Yeah.
So I think it's a good lesson, and maybe we shouldn't be leaving anyone behind.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Once like the mass is affected, they'll instantly stand up. But when we were just watching them, the woman who created the ADA.
Yeah.
The
504. Yeah. My last question, unless Navah has one, is today's World Autism Awareness Day. I know in the community that day has different connotations. So it's a little bit polarizing, I think, sometimes. What are your thoughts on this very strange Autism Awareness Day?
Well, I think personally that I haven't really seen as much happening this time, because it just feels like there's not really as much going on about it, because everyone's concerned about other things. And I think that makes sense. So in that sense, I think that there is a little bit of a less of a talk about it, and people are just trying to survive right now. So, this is affecting all of us, and autistic people specifically are having a lot of troubles. That if we gave more support, as I said, I think we could have a better world. I don't know if this will be something that people take of that lesson from. I mean, hopefully it would be, because it would suck to have everything go back to normal, and not help it, not have any sort of beneficial results of everyone going through this and learning from it. But I do think that we should really focus on trying to promote more awareness, and what I do by doing acting and writing and being on TV. I think it's important to put an image of autism out there in the media, like shows, Good Doctor, all those shows, Everything's Going to Be Okay. All of those, I think, are playing a role in making people see us as human, and not like as just people that they can just sort of forget exist.
Wonderful. Well said.
John?
I think that this is a time when we should put aside the talk of autistic people as a neurotribe, or African American people as a tribe, or Jewish people as a tribe. And we should recognize that this coronavirus is a threat to every single one of us, no matter what we believe, no matter who we are or where we came from. And it is, for the first time in our lives, one thing which has unified the entire world. It has dominated the news cycle. And I think, frankly, stories about religious or ethnic or cultural or neurological identity, I think those things need to be set aside, and we need to ask ourselves, what is my ability? What can I bring to help the world through this problem? If I am, for example, if I'm a rabbi or a priest, and I have the gift of comforting people through my faith, I should do that. If I'm an autistic person and I have a gift of logic and reason, I should try and offer comfort and support through logic and reason, as you've seen me do in my posts. Perhaps if I was an autistic person who did not speak, but my family found comfort in having me with them, my very existence at home with my family who was under stress, that could be a comfort. And beyond comfort, some of us have the ability to help with scientific discoveries. Some of us have the ability to go out there and crew ambulances, work in emergency rooms, fly airplanes and deliver supplies. I think we need to be unified in solving this, tremendous problem facing our world. And we need to be together as humans, not as members of a race, tribe, or neurological group for now. So I guess I would suggest that we need to put all that aside, and we need to ask ourselves, this is what I am, and because of what I am, these are my abilities, and this therefore should chart my course in the world in the weeks to come.
Yeah, and I do think though that what I was saying though is about telling our stories is I think that telling stories from the point of view of someone who's autistic, or telling stories from the point of view as someone who's African American or something, that I think those stories can be universal. It's not like only autistic people will watch The Good Doctor, for instance, or watch a show that has autistic characters. I think being able to tell stories is important, and I think that that's why I think that sharing who we are as autistic people can help other people, and a lot of times some of the things that we've learned as being socially distant might help people be socially distant now.
Sure. I mean, that is a thing that we know that others don't, and that's an example of a gift we can offer people.
Well, guys, I want to thank you both for joining us and for taking time to do this. We're thinking about you. We hope you stay healthy. And,
thank you.
And we're in this together. And
thank you both so much for being here today with us.
Well,
keep on fighting the fight.
Thanks for having us.
I love that.
Yep.
We're all in it together.
And we'll talk soon, okay, guys?
All right.
All right.
Sounds
We'll
good.
talk to you soon.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Well, that was incredible. That was exactly. We're all humans. We're all humans,
Speechless.
and that's what it is.
I mean, he hit the nail on the head. That we all have to help each other as humans, and a community, and no one person is less important than the other, and it's beautiful.
So our next
Speaking
guest,
of a beautiful person,
our next guest is
let's don't even fuss around. Just put him on, because he might have to go back to work.
all right. So we have a good friend, and we're gonna Gary. How you doing?
All right. I'm a little cold from being outside. I had to come in. My battery was dead.
So Gary Bilodeau is a good friend of ours. He's really kind of on the front lines right now. He's a doctor at a clinic in Washington State, which of course is one of the first real kind of hotbeds of this virus. And Gary basically is at a clinic all day, seeing people who are not feeling well. And Gary, you've actually set up a triage outside of your clinic and are seeing people outside. Isn't that right?
Correct. That was where you saw the blue tent above my head out there. I had to come in. The battery was going dead on the phone. But yeah, we've set up a tent outside to screen everybody before we send them to lab or x-ray.
And so you've had that triage unit set up for about a week and a half now?
Longer.
Yeah, almost 2 weeks now.
Almost 2 weeks. So, and how many people are you seeing a day?
It ranges. It just depends. I think when the word gets out, it's really busy. We're seeing probably 40 to 45. Today it's been a little bit slower, and I think that's just because everything's been quite shut down around us. So probably 20 today. And
are you staying healthy?
Yeah, trying to. I felt a little off on Sunday, but I turned it around, so we should be right.
Good. Well, this is a scary time, and as someone who is from the medical industry, let's talk about that. What should people be thinking right now who are sitting in their homes quarantined? As someone who's working on the front lines, what kind of advice do you have for mom and dad who are sitting at home, or an individual who's sitting at home and worried about this?
Well, I think the biggest thing is still this self-quarantining is super important. The more we can keep away from our elderly population, which is still taking the hit, I think you've seen here in Washington, The nursing homes are the ones that are the worst. We're losing 6 to 9 at a time,
Mm.
just from them being in such close contact and just sharing it and spreading it.
Mm-hmm.
So the good hand washing, the keeping your hands away from your face, as you can see, we're completely gowned up, masked up, hooded up. And so before we go out, we have to watch everything down.
We can't see your handsome facade.
Sorry. It's hot in this after a while too, which is nice because it's only 40 degrees outside.
Is there I mean,
one of the things I was telling Matt this morning, one of the things that I worry about so much is my mom is in a 24-hour facility like the one in Washington.
Yeah.
And I just read a report on how a woman had just a minor instance happen to her. I think she fell or something, and they took her to the ER. And then once you separate and you've kind of gone out of your home, they won't let seniors back into their home. So for me, it's just like, you know, if you have an elderly, I don't know if you watched Andrew Cuomo talking about, you know, his brother, he thought their mom was going to be lonely. So he said, oh, I invited mom over, and, you know, his kids were there and everything. And it's like, it makes me crazy because it's, you know, you love your parents, then stay the hell away from them.
That's the worst, I think, because people aren't thinking, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, our kids, I mean, we have 7 kids. And so, you know, our one daughter wants to have her boyfriend over because they're all out of school. Well, they don't realize that one person has come in contact with another person who's come in contact with 10 people, who's come in contact with 20 people. You know, and it's like the old adage when we had the HIV days, if you think about it, when one person had sex with one person, they were actually with everybody that they had been with. Well, it's the same thing with this. You're spreading it through all the people that they came in contact with that day back to your home. So it's not just one, it's 20.
Exactly.
And it's even worse because it's people that you've just been in the same room with. It's correct. It's not just having sex. It's people you've been in the same room with. And
no, I was using that adage of, you know, the old HIV days though,
where
I know was with 10. So it's the
know.
same thing though when you think about, you know, the grocery stores and all that are still open, and people are going, well, I'm going there by myself. Well, you're going there with 10,000 people that have just been at the store.
Right.
So they got to remember that you got to limit that as much as possible.
And then you come back to your home, and even if it's only
you bring it all with you. Exactly.
Yeah, and that really puts things in perspective because, you know, there are certain things you have to do to survive, and going to the grocery store is one of them.
Gary, what do you think about the new was it a law or a suggestion today in LA? They said that we should all wear masks when we go out.
Correct. And I think that's good. I'm not quite sure why they didn't do that a little sooner. You know, these N95s, like the one that I'm wearing, are supposed to be the best protection, but they're even saying the ones that collect some of the bigger droplets are protective as well. So some is better than none. And I think if you have one and your partner or whoever you're with has one, you're kind of double protecting that. And it's just one more little saving grace. You know, it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. Well,
there's something about that I don't understand though, because you know, I, like Navah said before, I'm a news junkie, and I watch the news all the time, and it's to a fault. And so the Surgeon General had come on, you know, over the last couple of weeks. He's been coming on regularly saying that he doesn't believe masks help people or
well, he was actually saying you shouldn't wear masks unless you yourself are sick.
And my feeling is, well, maybe he's saying that because there's a shortage of masks in the country.
Yeah.
But and to me, I do feel that. I think that, you know, we've thought about that forever. And you look at China and the way they've approached that, or you see people at Disneyland that come from a different country and they wear a mask all the time.
Yeah.
They're trying to protect themselves from getting it. And so if you're making everyone mask, you're at least eliminating some of that transposition where you're turning it over to somebody else. And I think if you're doing both people, the sick and the not sick, I mean, why am I wearing it then? If I'm not sick, why am I being protected from them?
Exactly. You know? That's exactly
I think we have to stop that cross contamination. It's just an extra benefit.
And so the other thing I wanted to ask is, let's say hypothetical question: you have a family of 5 people, and like Chris Cuomo right now has come down with it. He's sequestered in his basement in New York. But I mean, a family in a small apartment, let's say, you regularly have people, in an apartment, 4 or 5 people in an apartment.
Right.
They can't sequester themselves in a basement. What happens to a family who has one case?
family member.
One family member has it, and what do? Do they lock themselves in a room? And I mean,
well, and if you think about that, you're saying, they're self-sequestering, but to what end? I mean, they've already come in contact with the other family members before they found out, and this has been shown to be up to a 14-day post transmission. So I mean, they've already exposed them for the past 14 days.
It's a little too late.
So basically, if you kind of just lock down that house, if you're the worst one out of them, you want to stay away a little bit, because you're seeing, especially in these nursing homes where they're transmitting it in such tight quarters, the sicker you are, it's looking like the sicker you're going to make somebody close to you. And they're just kind of passing that part back and forth. So the sicker people are going to get people sicker faster. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. Now you have a large family.
Correct.
7 kids.
Yeah.
Well, he beat us. You guys beat us.
You did. You beat us. He didn't beat you, because you come from a family of 9.
Yeah.
But
We have 8 brothers.
he beat us.
And
So-
that's been hard. I think, Dina worries about that. I mean, that's been the big thing, is that, I come home, I have to get all this off before I go in.
Oh.
You have a separate set of clothes, then you go up and you take a shower, you come back down.
The video that Dina posted, did you see it? The
No.
video where the dad, like exactly like Gary, he's coming home and the elevator opens and his little toddler comes running to give his daddy.
Running at him, yeah.
And
Very
the
sad.
dad goes like this, and then the dad just breaks down, and I was bawling my eyes out
Yeah,
when I
very
saw it.
sad.
It was just, it's the times, and it's.
Well, that's what's nice. It's nicer having older kids, because mine do understand that, and they're like, "Don't touch
don't
me,
wanna
Dad. I don't
hug.
want the COVID."
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because that's the thing I read the other day. Is there's a lot of teenagers, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, maybe even younger, who are saying to their parents, "I can't handle this. It's
Yeah.
too much. I can't be home
Or
anymore."
they sneak out.
And they
I know-
sneak out.
I know
They drive
kids
their
who
cars.
sneak out.
They drive their cars. And they hang out in parking lots there together.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to what advice maybe do you have for a parent that's dealing with that, and how to talk about that?
And that's the thing. I think we've talked to, like I was saying, Hannah, our one daughter, about that, who's got a boyfriend, and they're FaceTiming all the time. You got to find other ways to communicate and bypass that time, because, again, he's got a grandfather on his side. We've got grandparents on this side, and you're bringing all of that back. And if you can convince them and kind of talk to them about it and show them, you're not just bringing one person into the house, you're bringing all the people that person was with during the day back to this house, and you're putting them at great risk. And if you worry about grandma and grandpa, you just got to stay that distance for a little bit. This won't last forever. We'll get through this. But think about the grandparents. Think about the parents who may have something underlying that you don't want to bring that back to. And the teenagers have been pretty good about that. There's going to be the ones that aren't going to listen to that, of course. But, you just have to explain that as best you can, and just say, don't bring 10 people home with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I FaceTime every night with my dad, and he's grown a
I saw that. I
beard.
liked your picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's grown a very Santa-like beard. And
Yeah.
He looks actually a lot like Santa now. And we FaceTime all the time with Juliet,
Yeah.
Navah's mom, who's sequestered in
She can't.
San
She's not
Clemente.
even allowed to leave her room.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Well, and the hard part now is, and I don't think they're still trying to catch up to it. And from my standpoint, working here and watching this, and we're doing all the research, and we're talking to the CDC, and we're talking to the county every day, the problem's becoming that we're going to quarantine everything. The schools are shutting down for the rest of the year. The businesses are shutting down. It's going to be a mental health toll. It's going to be an economic toll.
Yeah.
And they're not quite to the point where they should be yet, of thinking we have to get a vaccine and we have to get some form of treatment before you let that all go, or you start all over. They're already talking about that and doing second and third waves of this thing. That's why we've gotten ahead of the flu. The flu, like you and I have talked about before, is truly just as bad. 23,000 people died of that so far this year, just from the CDC's standpoint. And we have a treatment and a vaccine for that. And look how many people died.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If we don't do that now for this, how are we going to get ahead of it? You're just going to let it go again, and we're going to start all over. And then they're going to go, oh, God, we got to get that vaccine done right now. You need it now. We need a vaccine. We need a treatment for it so we can get ahead of it. Because right now we're just kind of chasing it.
And we're talking though. We're talking maybe 8 months, right? 8, 9, 10 months.
Correct.
A year.
Yeah, unless they fast track it. And I mean, you can only fast track a vaccine so well. But I think the treatment they could fast track a little bit better to try to knock this down. Let people build up those antibodies, and then they're going to pass that on to other people, and we can get that little bit of community immunity going. But until we get that, we're just chasing it. You're quarantining everybody, and then that one person that you said sneaks out. You know, that kid that goes somewhere, they're going to bring it back, and you're going to start over in another community.
Now let me ask you: Are you testing a lot of people, or are you saying you probably have it go home? What are you?
We did it first. We were doing it every day, doing them all, sending them all, and you just run out. I mean, we ran out. We're hoping to get back that 5-minute one here pretty soon. We're all talking about that. We're trying to get a hold of
the Abbott lab.
Yeah.
The Abbott lab.
Yeah. We have a lab right here in the building, and they ran out.
So you don't have any tests.
We don't have any tests anymore. Mm-mm.
So incredible.
The hospital here in town, separate from our urgent care, ran out. So we're having to send everybody to Lacey, which is up by Olympia, and they're doing a drive-through up there because they got it from the UW.
So let me ask you something, and this is something that we're kind of running out of time. We're going to say goodbye in a sec, but
all right.
What does that mean? I mean, how do we get an accurate count as to how many people have this in the country if you can't get a test and you can't be tested?
Well, and that's the thing. I think you look at just like with the flu. I mean, if you have the symptoms, do you have it? Well, most likely. And I mean, you can just say, yeah, you probably do. The only ones we're worried about anymore, especially when you think about it, when I have people drive through my tent here and I talk to them and they say, I've got a cough, I'm a little bit short of breath, and I had a fever the last few days, but it's kind of subsided. I have to tell them, this may be the virus that we shall not speak of. And you've got to go home for now. The only ones that really need to go to the hospital are the ones that are really sick, because this is still ranging anywhere from a mild cold all the way up to I can't breathe and I need to be on a ventilator. Mm-hmm. So testing anymore, is it worth it if the treatment's going to be the same? You either go home or you're so sick you've got to go to the emergency room. There's not much in between anymore.
But the important thing is that they go home.
Correct.
Stay home for 2 weeks.
The big public service announcement here on our TV from the governor was, call before you go. Call your urgent care, call your hospital and say, these are my symptoms. What do you need to do? Apple even has a new COVID monitoring app. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that.
You can download that app and it asks you if you have this and this and this. So everybody's coming in here saying, well, I have this and it says to self-quarantine. So I'm going to self-quarantine because the app told me so. So I guess, it's helping.
Well, Gary,
we love you, Gary.
Thank you. We love you, and stay safe. Okay.
Love you guys too, and I gotta get back out here. I got a couple people to see.
Go do it, and we thank you, and stay safe, stay healthy.
All right. You too. Take care.
All right. That was Gary Bilodeau in Washington, and look, I mean, the major message he has right there is stay home if you feel sick. Don't
stay
go
away
out.
from your parents. Stay away from your grandparents, unless they're already quarantined with you.
Yeah.
Don't reintroduce yourself, because each time you reintroduce them, you're re-exposing them. 2
weeks. Okay. Stay at home. So this has been a great show. We've got a lot, we talked about a lot. That was crazy. And we're going to be back next week with some guests that
send us your questions.
Send us your question. We didn't really do any questions today, but next week we're going to be doing questions, and we want you to call in or watch us, and we'll be doing live questions, a Q&A, live questions. So we until next week, we're with you. We're here. Go to our website, look at our Facebook. We have classes for you, free of charge. Contact us about telehealth.
Carissa at edasnerfamilycenter.org if you have any need for more support with your anxiety, or if you just want to reach out to us, you can do that. Navah or Matt at edasnerfamilycenter.org, and stay healthy.
What's important is take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And as John Robison said, we're humans. We're all in this together. And this is the first time this has ever happened. And we're all in this together. And until next week, we will see you then.
See you then.